Hi, everybody. How's it going? Everybody awake? Awesome. So I'm Ryan Pamplin. I'm from Extreme Reach. I'm the VP Digital Evangelist, so I get to say cool things like, may the advertising be with you. Whoops. So about Extreme Reach. Give you a little bit about us, and then I'll get into some pretty awesome metrics that we've never talked about before, at least not up to date, and I think you'll find those particularly interesting. Extreme Reach is the dominant leader in TV, 94 to the top ad age. Brands use us. 9 out of 10 TV ads run through Extreme Reach. In talent, we're a leader as well, paid $300 million in 2014. And then I actually co-created a digital platform, which is now called Extreme Reach Digital. Really the most sophisticated software for measuring digital video ads that's out there. Integrates with the TV side, which is really cool. So let's talk about the history of video advertising and kind of how things have come to where they are now. So it started off way back in the mid-40s with the first soap opera, which was sponsored by CPG. Nielsen came along to start doing measurement. Media Ratings Council came along a little later to validate all of that measurement. Then there was the birth of cable television, which was a pretty big deal for advertising. It kind of changed the whole landscape, created a lot more inventory. Then the birth of the internet, of course, was changing things again. It took a while for the IAB to come along and then create standards specifically for video. We're a video-focused company, so everything I'm talking about is really video-focused. And then, of course, fast forward a little further after the IAB's created standards, we're finally getting to the point where we keep hearing the word convergence, but we're actually getting to a point where true convergence is really happening. And what I mean is TV and digital happening sort of in the same place, unified metrics. So let's talk about a couple of other stats here. If we look at the daily time spent with adults, this is updated as of 2014 now. We look at 2010, we see digital, not quite as much as TV, not as much time spent. This is in hours. And then we see that in 2014, it's a much greater amount of time spent than television on average. And with the younger demographics, it's even more pronounced. So as far as TV ad technology goes, we kind of started off delivering TV ads via film, and then it went to tape, and then it went to satellite. And then from satellite, it's gone to the cloud. And now almost every single TV asset that you end up seeing on TV is actually digitally delivered. The creative agency uploads it into software, and then the TV stations all receive it, automatically transcoded into the correct format, ready to air on television. That's a pretty substantial change, and that happened pretty quickly. And a lot of people, think TV is kind of old and traditional, but really the TV technology has advanced very quickly. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of it has only been in a handful of companies. So innovation has happened quickly because there's been a lack of fragmentation. It's a lot more challenging in digital because, of course, we've all seen the L word that I'm not going to say. Okay, the LumaScape, in case you didn't know. So let's talk about TV audience measurement. How does that work? So traditionally, it's been panel-based. The programming has been used as a proxy for the TV ratings, which is kind of inaccurate because it's not actually how many people saw this ad. It's really how many people saw this TV show that this ad aired on. And then you hear stats like 80% of people fast forward through commercials. So, that's interesting. And then, of course, GRPs, on the TV side. Now we've got those in digital as well. So there's one significant change in television measurement that just happened at the end of last year. So Nielsen announced a strategic partnership with Extreme Reach. And the way that TV ads are measured has actually moved to an actual campaign-based GRP. The way that that works is now every asset that goes through us gets watermarked with the Nielsen watermark for free, which is pretty cool because you used to have to pay for that. And now Nielsen's listening for those watermarks and actually giving you a true ad-based rating and measurement. So that's a pretty cool change to the methodology for the better. It makes things a lot more accurate. When it comes to digital video ad technology, everything kind of started off as totally custom. And, really hard work. Every time you have to reinvent, figure out a new way. There were no standards. And then interactive overlays kind of became a thing when it comes to video. And then experiments with XML and Flash and just whatever worked. And it's been that way for a long time. And then the VAST standard came along from the IAB Digital Video Committee. And then VPAID came along, which is kind of the more sophisticated version of VAST that allows for interactivity within the video player. And then there's this whole thing about site served versus ad served, and we're finally at a point where there's really good measurement now for digital video, but a lot of people are still site serving and don't realize that they're missing out on all these valuable metrics and optimization opportunities. So digital video audience measurement, how does that work? It's impression level. It's a far broader panel often that represents who the audience is. So you get more accurate, quicker data. You get a campaign-based GRP, which you couldn't get on TV until the end of last year. So that's kind of an exciting innovation there. Now, a lot easier to get unified metrics across screens. Cross-referencing data is something that you really haven't been able to do until recently as well. But now you can do things like, for example, in our platform, where you slice and dice brand lift data against audience data. And that's enabling brands to understand where the sweet spot is and really hone in on that. And that's stuff that when I used to be on the creative side, I used to dream of, literally. I used to think about that stuff and be like, man, I wish I could do this, because then I could just figure out which is working and what's not working, and then turn off the stuff that's not working. Finally, that's a reality. And what you're seeing brands do now is take the same TV creative 9 out of 10 times and run it on digital. And that's fine, because you're reaching the same audience who are consuming different ways, but the same content. So it's just a different screen. So taking that message and delivering it to them makes a lot of sense. And if you hit that same audience and the ads are viewable and it's not a bunch of in-banner stuff, it actually will work, just like television works, because it's, again, the same audience, often watching the same kind of content. And now you can take that data from the digital side and start to really understand how to optimize your TV creative. So if you have 4 different creatives in digital, and one of them is just killing it with brand lift, and one of them has the best completion rate, you should go run that one more on television, because it's clear that you've now had this virtual focus group, and it's proven that it works. So in that way, we're starting to really see digital inform traditional, which is, I think, a big change. So what are the challenges that we're facing in digital? Well, you guys all know this, right? The MRC definition for viewability, 50% of the ad has to be in focus for at least 2 continuous seconds. And then you've got Group M standard, which is actually 100% of the pixels in view for at least 50% of the length of the video, which is very interesting, because you kind of have now these holding groups deciding different standards, and they're big enough that they can actually hold everyone accountable to these standards, and they're big enough that people are going to want their money too, so they're going to accept these. This is a stat that I'm really excited to share with you. Unfortunately, this number's gone up over the last year by quite a bit. So 42.22% of the overall digital video ecosystem, which we measure a substantial portion of, is non-viewable right now. It does get interesting, though. This is rolling over the last 12 months, by the way. What you look at when you dive in is direct publishers versus inventory aggregators. So what we've actually seen over the last 12 months, billions of impressions considered for this, is industry aggregators have started to actually have less non-viewable impressions. The numbers were substantially higher even a year ago. And unfortunately, direct publishers have about 10 times more non-viewable impressions than they had before. So this is kind of an interesting trend where the aggregators are becoming better and the direct publishers are becoming a little bit worse. And I think what's happening is, in a lot of cases, direct publishers are overselling their inventory. They run out of inventory, and then they're running across aggregators, retargeting the audience that reaches their site and doing reach extension. And this is what's causing the numbers to shift in this way. I also want to point out that non-viewable doesn't mean fraud. A lot of people get confused about this. This guy is a bot, right? So bots are fraud. Bot traffic is fraud, high-frequency fraud. People's computers are infected that go and hit websites over and over and over again to generate ad revenue. Wall Street Journal said a while back 36% of web traffic is fake. I hear a lot of different numbers. But the reality is there's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of garbage that hits ads all the time and costs you guys a lot of money. And this is all stuff that we're finally at a point now where we can really detect, especially in video. There's certain patterns that I can't talk about because then the bad guys would find out. But certain things that we're able to identify that make it 100% certain that it's a bot. And in our case, we just filter that stuff out. It doesn't count. And that's a good thing. But as an industry, we have to be very aware of these things, because otherwise you could end up thinking, and I hear this all the time, oh, I tried digital with my TV ad and I targeted the same audience, it didn't work. No, that's not real. That's not true. That's not possible, because if it's truly the same audience and the ads are truly viewable, it will work. There will be some sales lift. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but it's going to be something. So let's talk about what an in-stream ad should be. This is what it should be, right? Above the fold, beautiful, big player, interrupting video content that you're going there specifically to watch. And this is in banner. So what I'm going to tell you next may be surprising to some of you. Others, you've probably heard it before. But this is a very interesting number. Again, first time that I'm going to reveal it here. Here's, real quick before that, the video player size. So the standard size video player, a lot of people don't know this. The IAB has a minimum recommended size for video, which is 400 by 300. So generally, contracts are being written now that say, we don't want any video players that are below this size, and if it is below the size, we're not going to pay for it. And they're also doing that with in-banner, which is the big problem that we're facing as an industry. But I have great news for you. 17.7% of ads are being delivered in banner when they're being purchased as premium pre-roll. Supposed to run in a big, beautiful player, ending up typically in a 300 by 250. This number was 25% up until recently. So this has changed really in the last couple of quarters for the better. And it's really the aggregators who have dramatically improved. And folks like us have been providing feedback loops to those aggregators to tell them what inventory is bad, what's in banner, and what they should try to not deliver to our clients anymore. And we've really, truly seen a dramatic downturn in this. So that's exciting. I think we're making progress as an industry. And I'll tell you one of the things that's probably the biggest takeaway you'll get from me today. You should be writing into your insertion orders, we will not pay for anything that ends up in banner. And you should use a third party to validate that the ads aren't ending up in banner. And if it does, you really, truly shouldn't pay for it, because most of the time it's non-viewable, most of the time it's muted, most of the time it's below the fold. And that means it's not going to work. If the majority of your video ads end up that way, there's no impact. So if we break it out by media vendor type, 11.96, nearly 12% of direct publisher inventory is being delivered in banner. Again, this is a number that's gone up a lot, which is really unfortunate. And the inventory aggregators, about 20.6%. This one has gone down. Non-viewable impressions are really the tip of the iceberg. You've also got in-banner below there, which is really a driver of poor viewability. You've got the bots, and you've also got brand-on-safe environments. That happens a lot, where there's no domain-level transparency. You don't know where your ads are really running. The network says, oh, I don't want you to be able to go around me, so I'm not going to give you the site list or let you see that data. Don't let that happen. Use a technology to actually understand what domains you're running on. And I guarantee you, if you're buying from an aggregator, you're going to end up in places that you might not want to have your brand. So it's good to have that transparency and be able to turn it off. So what's the solution to all of this, and how do we make TV and digital work together better? So transparency is important, accountability is important, automation is important. So for example, one of the things we're doing that's really cool is we have a creative library that's shared between TV and digital now. So you can just pull an asset over to digital, and then when you want to actually start a campaign, you just upload your media plan and then automatically generates all the tags and sends them to all the media vendors. And it does the same thing for TV. You can actually do TV and digital at the same time. These are the kinds of workflow efficiencies that are totally technically possible, but haven't really been done before. So it's really cool that we're finally at this place now where a lot of the TV and digital is the same, and you can create these sort of streamlined workflows. So similarities and differences between TV and digital. Obviously, on broadcast, you've got this huge audience, but there's no dynamic ad support. There's no internet connectivity. There's no real-time measurement. Video on demand is a little bit better. Over the top, of course, we're getting all these things, except we have no meaningful audience size. And then desktop and mobile, we really get all of this. We get the best of both worlds. And these platforms, as they become all digitally delivered, we're going to get all of these things across all platforms, which is exciting. But that's still a little bit far away. So what's the path to video convergence today? Currently, having transparency and accountability on both sides, having a fully integrated programmatic ecosystem. And when I say that, what I'm really talking about is being able to do business digitally. So not having to fax a paper I/O over to someone, which, believe it or not, on the TV side, that still happens all the time. So we're working on figuring out ways to totally integrate everything and make it all sort of talk to each other digitally, so you can do everything in a single platform instead of having to do all these manual processes that are very inefficient. And then having a feedback loop, the data and the optimization that actually goes back to the media vendors or to the TV networks and tells them what you want to run on based on what's working for you. So one thing that's really cool is if you're buying digital video on TV.coms, then you maybe want to buy that same show that's working for you in digital on TV, or vice versa. So it's really about taking that creative, going through the planning process, activating it, getting the data, and then feeding that back in, not at the end of the campaign, let's do better next time, but mid-flight, keeping it going. So I want to leave you with two keys to video convergence. having that streamlined workflow in a platform that allows you to do that, and also having unified insights where you can take TV and digital and really look at that together when it comes to video. Because I really want to stress that what digital video is really the future of television. It's just the same content being delivered on different screens to the same people that used to watch the content on the traditional screen. And having the metrics together really gives you this view that is more holistic and easier to really Anyway, so thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. We don't really have time for questions, but I know Ryan's around if you guys have any. So we started off kind of talking about innovation this morning.